Let's do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome into the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in. Whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, if you head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching the show on X _ Jonathan Smith. To follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app. College football is in full swing. People are hating on Indiana, for the second year in a row. And college football is a great thing. I love college football. It makes my Saturdays better. But the discussion within college football is amongst the most toxic in all of sports. And I was thinking about it last night. And I was thinking about all the Indiana hate. And it really bothers Indiana fans, and rightfully so. With that being said, I figured that I would just offer a short course in how to be a really good college football hater. Because the reality of college football is you can very easily make it out that nobody's good because no one's beaten anybody that's any good. And that's what people are doing to Indiana right now. Indiana goes on the road, beats Oregon by double digits, 30-20. And Oregon's one of the 10 best teams in college football. You could probably narrow it down further than top 10. You could probably say top 6. Oregon's one of the 6 best teams in college football. Indiana just went on the road to Oregon and beat them. But you have idiots, because that's what they are, out there saying, well, yeah, Indiana beat them by 10 on the road, but is Oregon really that good? I mean, their one good win was on the road at Penn State, who just lost to UCLA and Northwestern. And they needed overtime to make that happen. It's are they really good? And you can do it with every team in the country. So I figured I would do that. That way, when you have annoying people telling you that this Indiana team isn't very good, you can just say, well, who's your favorite team? And then if they say Ohio State, then you say, well, how do we know that Ohio State's good? They haven't played anybody good. Oh, well, they played Texas week 1, and they beat them 14-7. It's yeah, that's cool. But Texas isn't very good. Texas is only ranked because they're in the SEC. Their one good win was against Oklahoma in a game where John Batir was clearly hurt and not himself in his first game back. Oh, and Arch Manning sucks. So Ohio State's one good win came against a bad Texas team? I don't think that's a good win. And the game was at home. It's is Ohio State really that good? You can do this for everybody. Miami, their best wins was against Notre Dame. Notre Dame's best win was against North Carolina State, who's a bad ACC team. Miami's just cruising on an overrated schedule because Notre Dame, isn't really that good. And Florida State, they're not even ranked anymore. Just cruising on a bad schedule. Just ignore the eye test and how when you watch them, Carson Beck's playing as well as any quarterback in the country. Ignore how good the weapons are and the offensive line and just ignore how much better that secondary is. When you look at the resume, not very sure that Miami's good because they haven't beaten anyone who's good. And then obviously you have Indiana third, and I already kind of did the argument against them being good, which is just hooey. Because obviously, Oregon's a good team. Texas A&M, they don't have any good wins either. Their best win is also Notre Dame. Their other 3 wins, all in SEC play, came against Florida, Mississippi State, and Auburn. Those are 3 of the worst teams in the SEC, and they barely beat Auburn, and they barely beat Notre Dame. Are we sure that Texas A&M's good? Just ignore how good that defense is. Ignore how well they can run the football. Ignore those weapons on the outside. Just ignore all of that. Ignore all of it. And then ask your question, are they Are they really good? Ole Miss, they're ranked 5th in all of college football. They don't have any good wins either. Their best win's LSU. And LSU had a hurt quarterback in that game, and they barely won. LSU, also not as good as what everyone thought they were going to be in that game. Yeah, sure, LSU beat Clemson, but they're not ranked anymore. So, was the LSU win really that good? And then Ole Miss barely beat Washington State at home. Is Ole Miss good? I mean, they got a former Division II quarterback playing for them. So, they can't really be that good, can they? Alabama, you can do the same thing with them. Just ignore the fact that they've beaten, a ranked team 3 weeks in a row. But Alabama, they don't have any good wins either. Their best win's Georgia, and Georgia's not very good. How can Georgia be good when they lost to Alabama, who lost to Florida State? See how ridiculous all these things sound? And you can do it for every team. By the way, the only real validity any of these arguments have would be for Texas Tech, whose best win is Utah, 34-10 on the road. Utah's ranked 23rd. They're probably going to be unranked after this week. Okay, and then outside of that, their next best win is Kansas. Even though if you watch Texas Tech, then you would know Texas Tech's actually really good and really talented. Oregon, they're not good because they just lost to Indiana at home. They also barely beat Penn State, who just lost to UCLA and Northwestern. Oh, and they just fired their head coach. So Oregon, they're not very good either. Just ignore all of the talent on the field when you watch them. Georgia's not good either because they lost to Alabama, and if Tennessee's kicker could make a kick, they'd have 2 losses. LSU's best win is Clemson. Clemson's not any good, and they couldn't beat Ole Miss, who barely beat Washington State. Oh, and their starting quarterback is out for the rest of the year. They're overrated. You can do this thing that people are doing to Indiana all year. For every game, for every ranked team, it's not hard to do at all. And everyone's doing it to Indiana right now. And the reason why they're doing it is because Indiana is new. All right? And they're in the Big Ten. And Penn State doesn't like that Indiana has surpassed them. And Ohio State doesn't like that Indiana is right on their heels. And Michigan doesn't like that Indiana has surpassed them. And you can just keep running through the list. College football is a game dominated by the same teams year after year after year after year. Alabama had their very long run. Ohio State looks like they're about to start their run. Miami had their run in the 90s. Every team in Texas expects to be good every single year. Oregon has been relevant for, the last decade plus. Georgia had their short little stint atop the world of college football. LSU, same thing. Tennessee had their runs when Peyton Manning was playing quarterback for them. Notre Dame has always been a legendary program. Oklahoma, same thing. And now you have Indiana rolling in with all their money because Indiana's got a lot of money. Couple billionaires from the school, the Kelly School of Business isn't putting out nice guys who make $50,000 a year. It's not what they're doing. Now, Indiana shows up, and they're really the only new program that has risen to these heights. It's the reality of it. Like Vanderbilt's kind of new, but they're ranked 17th. And so while they are improved in NIL, because, Vanderbilt's, they're graduating people who are making money now. It's like Vanderbilt's new, but they're probably not going to make the playoff. And they're fun, and everyone likes Diego Pavia and all those things. BYU, they're a new power because they've got just a ton. I don't know about a power, but they've got a ton of money. They're 6-0. They're ranked 15th. They're making a push to maybe make the playoff. But outside of that, when you look at the top 12, it's a lot of traditional powers. Ohio State, Miami, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Alabama, Texas Tech, Oregon, Georgia, LSU, Tennessee, Georgia Tech. They're new. But you see what I'm saying. And also Georgia Tech and Texas Tech are not threats to win the national title like Indiana clearly is. And when you show up and all of a sudden you're really, really good, it changes everything. And people don't like you. No one likes the new guy that shows up and starts beating everybody up like Indiana's done this year. They didn't do it last year because they lost to Notre Dame and Ohio State in pretty clear fashion. Like those games were never really close. But they've surpassed a lot of teams in college football that have a much stronger history than Indiana. And this was supposed to be one of the appeals of this NIL era. Anyone can compete. You just got to put up the money. And Indiana has put up the money. And they've hired the correct coach to lead their program going forward. You have to have a competent coach in addition to having the money. And when you look at the best teams in college football, they all have that. Ryan Day's, you can make an argument, he's the best coach in the sport. Miami, Mario Cristobal won a lot of games at Oregon. Indiana, Coach Cignetti. Texas A&M, Mike Elko is a fantastic head coach. He won games at Duke. Winning games at Duke is not easy. He did it. Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin. Alabama, Kalen DeBoer. Texas Tech, I forget the name of their head coach, but I do like the way that Tech plays football. Oregon's coached by Dan Lanning, the most popular man in college football. Everybody loves that guy. Even though, he won one. I think he's won one big game during his time at Oregon. He beat Ohio State at home, lost to Ohio State in the playoff, and then lost to Indiana. I guess he beat Penn State earlier in the year, so I guess that's not a fair statement. But Georgia, they're ranked 9th. Coached by a very good head coach in Kirby Smart. LSU, coached by Brian Kelly. And so on. So the teams that are successful are the ones who have coughed up the money and have a head coach that is just capable of coaching. And Indiana absolutely checks both of those boxes. He is an excellent head coach, and there are a lot of people who don't like him because he ran his mouth a lot last year and did all those things. And, if you ask him, he would say that's not part of his personality. And he was just doing that to garner some attention for, a program that no one was paying any attention to. And then, they started winning games, and he kept talking a little bit. But to his credit, he hasn't had to do that this year. He had his one little snide remark at the SEC during media days. Outside of that, he's just coaching ball, man. He's moving on. He had his whole don't look in the rearview mirror after beating Oregon. But again, they shouldn't look in the rearview mirror because to go back to the heart of the segment, Oregon's not good. No one in college football is good. There's ways to tear every single team down. So Indiana fans continue to be a troll. I'm a weird SEC fan because it's just I've never understood the part of college sports and the part of college football, especially college football. I kind of get it in basketball because of tournament bids and those things. But in college football, I want for everyone in the SEC to be bad. Because if everyone in the SEC is bad and Arkansas is average, then they're going to make the playoff. And that's really all that I care about. I care about my team. That's really it. This whole conference versus conference thing, it's something I've never really understood. But hey, it's like a sibling thing, I guess. No one likes their siblings, but if you mess with them, then hey, you got to step in, But it's an awesome time to be an Indiana Hoosier fan. I know that they're a basketball school, and I keep hearing that be part of the argument for why Coach Cignetti would leave Indiana to go be at Penn State, because Penn State's a football school and all these things. You know why Indiana is a basketball school? They're a basketball school because they've never been good at football. That is the one thing that all basketball schools have in common. Kentucky is a basketball school. You know why? Because they've never been good at football. Every school wants to be a football school, whether they admit it or not. And I know that right now Indiana has a perception that, basketball school and all these things. If Coach Cignetti keeps winning, Indiana is very, very quickly going to turn into a football school. Because once again, every school in the country wants to be a football school. And I know this because football brings in significantly more money than the basketball program does. The football program for Indiana is going to bring in so much money this year that they can fund a lot of their other programs. So they want to be a basketball school. Or excuse me, they want to be a football school, even though right now they are perceived as a basketball school. And we know this because Indiana has simply just started investing more money in their football program. They paid Coach Signetti. They're paying players a lot of money. Good ones too. It's not like they're like, oh, let's overpay this 3-star. No. Let's go sign the number one quarterback in the transfer portal. Let's go do that instead. And they did, and now they're rolling, and the rest of the college football world doesn't like it. Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts is joining me today at 11, as he normally does. A lot of stuff on the Colts today because we woke up in a world where a third of the way through the season, the Indianapolis Colts are the number one seed in the AFC. Very bizarre. I certainly didn't predict this, but it is currently the reality. The Bills lost to the Falcons last night. Everyone, like the AFC is such an interesting place because the rosters just aren't great, but there's a lot of great quarterbacks and all those things. So my thoughts on the Colts being the one seed in 4 minutes.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, you can also watch the show on X _ Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. Next week, the show moves to the morning, 7 to 9 a.m. And as always, if you want a little bit more from me, go check out the My Take Is YouTube page. The Colts, they are 5-1. And the Bills lost last night, which now means that the Colts sit atop the AFC. And they absolutely deserve to be there. All of the takes, when the Colts started 2-0, oh, they're just like the Saints from last year who finished, 4-13, 5-12, somewhere around there. And then the Colts were 3-0. And everyone's like, they're just like the Sam Darnold Carolina Panthers that started 3-0 and finished 5-12. And now the Colts are 5-1, and I don't think that they're going to lose 11 games in a row. Is it possible? Sure, it's absolutely possible. Highly, highly unlikely, though. That's the reality of it. And the Colts are clearly good. If you hear someone say that they're not, you should just smack them in the face. I also think that if someone says that the Colts are Super Bowl contenders, I think you should also smack them in the face. They just had too many issues on defense. And at some point, they're going to get banged up. And then we're going to see what they look like after that happens. Right? But this Colts team is fun. They can score points. But they've got just so many issues on the defensive side of the football. Right? This is still a good football team. Bad football teams don't start 5-1. It just doesn't happen. Okay? They are one of two teams in the NFL to actually start that way. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the other team that's 5-1. The Steelers are 4-1. They could join the Colts, that 5-1 record in the AFC after this next week. But the Colts and the Buccaneers right now are the only two teams in the NFL sitting at 5-1. The Buccaneers, Colts, Steelers, and Packers are the only four teams in the NFL with only one loss. And may I remind you all just very, very quickly here. I said that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were going to be the 1 seed in the NFC. I said it. Everyone laughed, called me dumb, said, Jonathan, the Buccaneers are too hurt. You clearly never seen Baker freaking Mayfield play football. Speaking of Baker Mayfield, everyone loves him right now. Everyone's all about Tampa Bay. Everyone seems to love the Buccaneers. But for some reason, no one loves the Colts in the same way. And look, part of it is because of the quarterback. If you don't like, Daniel Jones, then I kind of get it. It's the first good year of Daniel Jones. Played 6 games. He's been really good in 5 of them. I didn't think he was great in the game against the Rams. I'm sure I'll talk to Zach Hicks about that coming up at 11 o'clock. But Baker, we've seen him do this now. This is the 3rd year in a row. He threw 40 touchdown passes last year. Threw for a ton of yards. Won that division. And so I do think that that's part of the difference for why people are all about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they're not quite as into the Colts. The Colts, however, are the best offensive team in football, and they are the most complete offensive team in football. It's the reality of it. The Colts not only lead the NFL in points per game at a little over 32 points a night, they're also 10th in the NFL in red zone touchdown percentage. And that's after they struggled to start the season. In fact, if you look at the Colts' last 3 games, they are first in the NFL in red zone touchdown percentage at 93%. I talked about it quite a bit yesterday. Shane Steichen has done an excellent job correcting the issues in the red zone that plagued the Colts at the start of the year. The Colts are also tied for first in average yards per play. The Colts are second in the NFL in third down offense. So they're scoring touchdowns in the red zone now as opposed to kicking field goals. They're creating chunk plays both on the ground and in the air. That's why that yards per play statistic is so high. They're second in third down offense, which means that they're consistently getting to third and manageable, and they're converting in those opportunities. When you do all those things, your offense is pretty spectacular, and that is the thing that we've seen with the Colts all year, and it's why they're good. It's why they're good. It's the best offense in the NFL, and they've kept these numbers high despite playing against two of the better defenses in all of football. The Broncos have arguably the best defense in the NFL from a personnel standpoint. The Cardinals, they had the fourth-ranked scoring defense in the NFL going into the game on Sunday. The one bad offensive week for the Colts came when A.D. Mitchell fumbled the football right at the goal line where he just dropped it, and Daniel Jones threw two bad interceptions. This is the best offense in the NFL. You can argue with the wall. I would take this offense before I took the Lions. The weapons are deeper. Like the Lions have Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams. After that, it's a lot of very average players. And then you look at the Colts. Is the top end as good? No. Michael Pittman Jr. is not as good as Amon-Ra St. Brown. You could also tell me that Michael Pittman Jr. isn't as good as Jameson Williams. With that being said, between Michael Pittman Jr., Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, A.D. Mitchell, who's clearly very talented, and Ashton Doolin, who's just reliable, the depth of the weapons for the Colts are better. I think both quarterbacks are very similar. They can make the throws needed, but they need to be supported by a good offensive line, which both teams have, and a good run game, which both teams also have. The run game, though, got to lean Colts because they currently have the best running back in football who's leading the charge in offensive rookie of the year, offensive player of the year, voting or odds or whatever you want to call it. This is the best offense in football. It's why they're the 1 seed. It's because of their ability to score points. With that being said, that is the path for them to be the 1 seed in the AFC. That's the path. They're going to have to continue to be the best offense in the NFL. Because the reason why I would argue that the Indianapolis Colts are not good enough to win the Super Bowl, the reason why I would argue that the Colts aren't even good enough to get to the AFC Championship game, is because this defense is not good. It's not good. It feels very, what's the right word? Very fraudulent. Feels very gimmicky. That's a better word than fraudulent. The defense feels gimmicky. Here are the numbers for the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are 15th in the NFL in yards per play allowed. They're 30th. That is third to last in the NFL in third down defense. They're 14th in opponent red zone touchdown percentage, and they are 6th in takeaways per game. Your numbers should be better than that with all of those takeaways. When you're forcing 1.5 takeaways a game, you shouldn't be 30th in third down defense. You shouldn't be. You should be better than what you are. And then you consider the fact that the Colts have played the Raiders, Dolphins, and Titans this year, and the Cardinals with Jacoby Brissett playing quarterback. And the Colts are 30th in third down defense. They're 14th in opponent red zone touchdown percentage. They're 15th in yards per play allowed. I'm not even talking about the pitiful run defense that this Colts team runs out there every single week. What's this Colts defense going to look like when they finally don't force a turnover in a game? I have the same question about the Jacksonville Jaguars and their defense. What do they look like when they stop, forcing 2 turnovers a game? Because that's what the Jags are at right now. What does the Colts defense look like when they stopped forcing turnovers. They forced at least one in every game that they've played. So while it's pretty clear that this Colts football team is good, I can't say that they are a Super Bowl contending team because this defense is not. And you can win games with a great offense and an average defense. You can totally do that. But when you get to the playoffs and you're staring across the field at Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, two teams that are, or two guys that are probably going to make the playoffs this year. If you don't have a really good defense, because that's what it takes to beat those guys, or, a guy on their level on your sideline, and as good as Daniel Jones has been, he's not that dude. He's not that good. Then you're probably not winning that playoff game unless they give it to you. The New England Patriots are currently sitting atop the AFC East, and it's because Josh Allen gave them a game because he turned the football over 3 times in that game at home. So unless they give you the game, which those guys tend to play great in the playoffs, you're not winning those games. That is simply why I can't have the Colts as a Super Bowl contending roster. Okay? They're close. They're 2 pieces away, legitimately. They need a pass rusher, and they need a number 2 corner. They don't have either one right now. So a couple phone calls from Chris Ballard need to be made. I don't know if he's going to be able to make both of those trades. I don't know if those upgrades are going to be enough for the Colts to be able to, kind of move into that next tier. Okay, I think that the Colts would be much better off trading for a cornerback than an edge. I'm going to talk about that coming up at, here in about 8 minutes. Before I had to break, I was asked by C. Fitch, has Anthony Richardson put on a Colts uniform for the last time? The answer is no. He has not. Anthony Richardson is on IR. You can still be traded when you're on IR. The Broncos fought for that a couple years ago. But I don't know why anyone would trade for Anthony Richardson when he's on IR. I don't know why the Colts would trade him right now either. His stock could not be lower. Couldn't be lower right now. Your return on investment would be criminally low as of right now. And I do think that the Colts like the talent. And look, talent corrupts everybody. Talent makes you make decisions that you wouldn't normally make. Brett Favre threw a ton of interceptions because of his talent. He's like, I have the best arm ever. That window, that's the size of a pea. Yeah, I'm going to throw the football through that. And then the ball would get picked off. And then from a front office standpoint, when you have an excellent talent like Anthony Richardson, you give them a longer leash. That's why A.D. Mitchell wasn't cut, because he's super talented. So no, I do not think that Anthony Richardson has put on a Colts uniform for the last time. I think he'll be back next year as the backup for the Indianapolis Colts. They're going to wait, I think, until they reach a point where his value either goes up a little bit or they feel like he can be a real dude for them. I don't think they're in any sort of rush to get rid of Anthony Richardson, simply because if you trade him right now, before he got hurt, the dude, you might have gotten a 5th round pick for him. If you trade him while he's hurt, you're probably going to get like a 6th or 7th round pick back for him. So I'd be very surprised if Anthony Richardson was moved before the trade deadline, which is rapidly approaching. Speaking of the trade deadline, I would rather the Colts trade for a cornerback than an edge rusher. I'll tell you why in 4 minutes.
highlights in today's sports world. It's here. The real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy's Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching on X, _ Jonathan Smith, to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts is joining the show here in about 20 minutes or so. Very excited to have him on, as he comes on every Tuesday at that time. Always does an excellent job. Now, the Colts, there's a lot of discussion around a trade that should be made. Edge rusher, Trey Hendrickson, Max Crosby. I get it. Myles Garrett yesterday, or two days ago, I guess, made a comment about how, it's tough losing the same way every time, when the offense can't really score. Yeah, Myles, maybe if you hadn't taken like a $50 million a year raise, or he wasn't eating it, the raise wasn't that much. That's like how much he's making. He's making an absurd amount of money. It's like you could have gone somewhere else for less money, and you decided not to do that. They waved that green stuff in your face, and you're like, all right, sign me up for that, please. This is what you signed up for, man. It's no one else's fault. And I see this, him say this and all that kind of stuff, and then I see all these Colts fans like, you know what team doesn't struggle to score points? I'm telling you right now, we're not trading for Myles Garrett. The Colts probably aren't going to make a trade for Trey Hendrickson, and they're probably not going to make a trade for Max Crosby. It would be awesome if they could bring in a dude like that. With that being said, it wouldn't fix all of their issues, because that cornerback number 2 slot is bad. No matter who's coming off the edge for the Indianapolis Colts, that is an area that offenses can pick at, and they will. If the Colts really want to try to make a run that's more than, hey, we won a playoff game and then we played the Chiefs in the divisional round and they beat us. If they want to make a run more than that, they're either going to have to make 2 trades. But with that being said, I don't think they're going to be able to make 2 trades. Very, very tough to do. I think it would benefit the Colts more to go and get a second corner than an edge rusher. If you don't have a good pass rush, you can blitz. That's what you can do. You can pull 7 guys up to the line of scrimmage, and you can only rush 4, and you can try to confuse the offensive line and see if that helps the pass rush get home. We have seen Lou Anarumo, Colts defensive coordinator, do this all year. We have seen him in big spots on big third downs find a way to generate pressure on the opposing quarterback. That is what he has done. We've seen him do it time and time again. Whether the Colts blitz or only rush 3 or 4 and decide to drop 7 or 8 guys into coverage, there is no helping whoever that second cornerback is against the better offensive teams in the NFL. It didn't matter what the Colts did to try to defend Puka Nacua. That dude still went crazy. It didn't matter what the Colts tried to do to defend Troy Franklin of the Denver Broncos. That guy still had like 8 receptions for 89 yards and a touchdown. It didn't matter on Sunday what they tried to do to defend Zay Jones. And guess what? Troy Franklin and Zay Jones aren't even elite receivers. And they both had their way against this Colts secondary. Cornerback slot number 2, whoever's playing across from Charvarius Ward, is clearly a weak spot. I think that it's a weaker spot than the edge rusher. Okay. And, a guy in the YouTube chat is saying that when the Colts DBs are healthy, they're sound. the whole roster is a dominant edge from competing. Yeah, that's just not really true. Like we've seen Jonathan Edwards. Justin Wally was the guy who won that cornerback number 2 slot, and he's out for the year with an ACL. Jonathan Edwards has been brutal at that position, or at least he was brutal against the Cardinals. But Mekhi Blackmon wasn't much better. I know he's got a couple of picks on the year or whatever, but that doesn't mean that you're a consistently good down-to-down corner. I know everyone's like, oh, when Jalen Jones comes back, he's gonna be great. There's a reason why the Colts brought in Justin Wally, and there's a reason why Justin Wally beat him out for the job, and there's a reason why before Jalen Jones got hurt, they brought in Xavier Howard, and they gave him the job. It's because for some reason they don't like Jalen Jones. It's the reality of it. They need a second corner more than they need a good pass rusher right now. Because Jonathan Edwards isn't going to cut it. Mekhi Blackmon isn't going to cut it. Chris Lamond's not going to cut it. It's the reality of it. And we've seen at least instances where the pass rush for the Colts has been good. And also, if you have a better cornerback number 2, that gives your defensive line more time to get home. And they've got some guys that I'm not going to say that they're emerging. I don't want to use the word that everyone likes, flashes, but Adetomiwa Adebawore, when he's been on the field on third down, he's been arguably their best pass rusher. He's definitely been their best pass rusher on the interior. I keep hearing about how close Leatu Latu is. He had a really good game against the Rams. Hadn't been as impactful since then. But with that being said, we keep hearing about how close he is and how all of these advanced numbers point to him playing really well, and he's getting pressures, but he's not getting home. Go get a better cornerback number 2 and give Leatu Latu an extra 0.2 of a second to get home. DeForest Buckner, slightly older, not as good of a player as he used to be, but he still has the ability to get after the passer. So while they don't have any premier guys, they have a few guys in there that are solid. And if you can just go find a better cornerback number 2 that gives that rush a little bit more time, having a better cornerback number 2 gives you a much better option, or a more options in terms of blitzing, because you can trust those guys. Like when you blitz with bad corners, you're opening yourself up not just to give up first downs, but to give up big play touchdowns. Go back to the Rams game. Tutu Atwell, 80-yard touchdown. And that's probably not a fair comparison because Mekhi Blackmon fell. But still, the Colts blitzed on that play. And I know that they didn't have a 10th guy. Lou Anarumo said it, though. The 11th guy on the field would have been used to double Puka. There was no one over there. Part of why Myles Garrett has been so dominant in Cleveland, in part, is because Cleveland has had 2 good corners for the entire time that he's been there. That gives you an extra 0.2 of a second to get off your block and actually sack the quarterback or hit the quarterback. Give that to this Colts pass rush, and the pass rush will become better. I'm also just a believer in adding strengths onto your strengths. And like this Colts pass rush needs more than just one guy to all of a sudden have a consistently good pass rush. One elite pass rusher is not going to revolutionize the Colts' ability to get after the quarterback. Also, are the elite guys even available? Or are you going to have to settle for a Jalen Phillips, who has a long injury history, or a Bradley Chubb, who's been good, had one great year in Denver, got him paid in Miami, who's, he's been banged up ever since he got down there as well. It's like, are the elite guys even available? Or are you just going to add another, he's pretty good guy to this defensive line that's filled with guys where it's like, yeah, he's all right. I think the answer is to go improve at corner, because you have a defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, who does a good job of scheming up blitzes and scheming up ways to confuse the quarterback. Add a second corner. Obviously, add both if you can. But I think the Colts would be much better off adding a corner as opposed to another edge rusher. Tyler Warren should be the rookie of the year, by the way. A lot of talk, about Jonathan Taylor being the offensive player of the year, and rightfully so. A lot of talk about Daniel Jones. Should he be, in the conversation to win the MVP award? He absolutely should be. He should be in the conversation. He shouldn't win it. But meanwhile, Tyler Warren's just out here putting in work every single week. And part of that is because Emeka Egbuka has just been awesome for Tampa Bay, right? And he was clearly the front runner to win offensive rookie of the year, right? No question about it. Emeka Egbuka, he was leading that race, and then he got hurt on Sunday, which is I don't wish injuries on anybody. That's obviously not a good thing, but that has opened the door for Tyler Warren to now be potentially the offensive rookie of the year. We'll see how long he's out for. As I'm pulling up the odds right now. I just want to see how much they were impacted by everything that we've got going on here. Offensive rookie of the year, Jackson Dart is in the lead at plus 100. And then it's Emeka Egbuka and Ashton Jeanty, both at plus 450. And then it's Tyler Warren at plus 750. That's absurd. He should be high. He should not be plus 750. If you want to put those other three guys in front of him, I get it. But plus 750 is kind of insane. Okay, he's currently the leading receiver on the 1 seed in the AFC. He's on pace for 1,000 yards receiving. He's got 3 touchdowns on the year, two receiving and 1 rushing. He's lining up all over the field, playing fullback. They've lined him up at quarterback. Obviously, they've lined him up, out wide in the slot, standing up. They've lined him up with his hand in the dirt. He's impacting the running game with his blocking, something that none of those other guys are doing. He should be the leader for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Maybe Jackson Dart should be in front of him. I can understand that. But Tyler Warren is having a pretty amazing year. He's leading all tight ends in receiving yards right now in the NFL. He also has more receiving yards than guys like DK Metcalf, the best receiver in Pittsburgh, Chris Olave, the best receiver in New Orleans, Marvin Harrison Jr., former number 4 overall pick, who's the leading receiver in Arizona, Thomas Bryant Jr., a guy who was drafted, I think, 17th overall last year, 2 years ago by the Jaguars, Keenan Allen, the leading receiver in L.A., Ladd McConkey, another very good wide receiver out in L.A., and Devontae Smith. He's not just the best receiving tight end in football. He's one of the best receivers, period. And once again, he's also extremely impactful in the run game, and he can line up at fullback. And at this point in the year, he should absolutely be the offensive rookie of the year. No question about it. The Giants actually have a pretty decent chance at sweeping these awards for offensive and defensive rookies of the year with both Jackson Dart and what's his name? Gosh dang it. And Abdul Carter, edge rusher / linebacker, winning both offensive and defensive rookies of the year. So Tyler Warren, just saying, plus 750. It's a little high. Should probably bring that down just a little bit. All right. College basketball rankings, preseason rankings came out yesterday. Indiana projected to finish 10th in the Big Ten. Purdue's ranked number 1, and they're projected to win. Matt Dowdy over on YouTube says, have you forgot about Kenny Moore as the second corner? He's not the second corner. He's the nickel corner. The second corner is the guy who plays out wide. So, and right now that's going to be Jonathan Edwards or Jalen Jones or another guy that the Colts clearly don't like all that much. When you're starting an undrafted free agent, Jonathan Edwards out of corner, that is clearly still an issue. Okay. So Kenny Moore, very good player. Very excited for him to come back. Hopefully here soon. Hopefully he practices tomorrow and kind of starts working his way back after, hurting his Achilles. But he's the nickel corner, not the outside corner. They've tried him at outside corner. That didn't go well, so they moved him back inside. So yeah, cornerback number 2 needs to be addressed. And I'm going to talk to Zach Hicks about that at 11. Congratulations to Purdue fans. You actually have something to celebrate. Your basketball team is supposed to be good. Sorry that you lost to Minnesota on Saturday, but you're only like 3 weeks away from the start of college basketball season. So Purdue fans, just hold on a little bit longer and do everything you can to not watch Indiana play football. It'll probably only make you more sad about the state of your football team. By the way, Purdue, you got all these engineers. Pull them all together and let's build a football team. Let's go. All right, Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts. He's joining me coming up here here at 11. I'm going to run by him my idea that the Colts should trade for a corner as opposed to an edge rusher. Uncouth, however you say that, said that the Colts clearly like Jalen Jones. They liked him last year in Gus Bradley's system. He doesn't have the speed to turn and run in the Lou Anarumo system. They don't. Okay, if they liked him, they wouldn't have drafted, a corner in the third round like they did this year. Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts. He's joining the show when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome into the Real Jonathan Smith Show today, brought to you by Holiday World and Splash and Safari. Get down to Holiday World. They celebrate the holidays like nobody else. They've got an awesome Halloween-themed drone show going on right now. You should go and check it out. Have a blast. Take your kids and make some awesome memories. Thank you for tuning into the show, no matter how you're doing it. And if you want more amazing Colts coverage, just check out my guy, Zach Hicks, who joins the show every Tuesday at this time. Zach, what's going on, man? How are you?
Doing good, man. Number one team in the NFL we're covering right now, 5-1 after 6 games. Can't really complain whatsoever.
I can't either. I just can't believe we're here, man. Like 5-1. Who would have thought? Us and the Buccaneers leading the charge. It's pretty amazing. But it's interesting because I feel like I should like the Colts more than I do, considering that they're 5-1. Like, I don't like this defense at all, really. Being 30th and third down defense when you've played teams like the Dolphins, Raiders, and Titans and Jacoby Brissett, like I don't think that's a great sign. And because of that, Zach, I proposed earlier today that instead of trading for an edge rusher, the Colts should trade for a second corner instead. I just think that would be more beneficial for this year. I understand that you have to think down the line, like Justin Wally next year when he comes back, what does that do to him and all those things. But I just, even if the pass rush is better, I just feel like teams are going to pick on Jonathan Edwards or Jalen Jones or whoever winds up being that cornerback number 2. So if you had to pick, like, would you prefer the Colts to trade for an edge rusher or a second corner?
That's tough because I think there's just more edge rushers available in terms of like going out and getting one. Because corner, I just like, who's trading a good corner at this point? You know, like even of the bad teams, like which of the bad teams that we think are going to be sellers actually has a cornerback worth trading for is kind of the issue. I think I agree with you in like the premise where it's like, if all things were equal, if you can go out there and get a corner or go out there and get a pass rusher, like the pass rush isn't great, but at least it's fine. You know, at corner, they're throwing out. I mean, look, I love Jonathan Edwards' long-term potential. I think a lot of his mistakes on Sunday, like he was right there in coverage on every single catch he allowed. He just couldn't separate man from ball. And I think over time, he's going to learn how to do that and be a pretty good corner. But he was a rotational corner at Tulane last year. You know, he's an undrafted free agent. Like, he's not ready for the full-time starting moment. And with Charvarius Ward having a second concussion in the last month, it's concerning, you know, and they don't really have anybody else at corner right now. I mean, Kenny Moore, their other like stout corner, is dealing with an Achilles injury. And that could be anywhere from him back in the next week or two to out until the last month of the season, because you just don't want to mess with an Achilles whatsoever. So corner is in a really dire situation right now where the most trustworthy guy they have is Mekhi Blackmon, who's been up and down, to say the least, out there. So I'm with you. If all things were equal, go get me a corner because they just need bodies there. Heck, go get more than one corner. Sign a guy, trade for a guy, grab a guy off a practice squad, like get as many corners in here as possible at this point. But I think when it comes to the trade deadline, because things just aren't equal, there are more edge rushers to be had, especially because teams are a little less willing to pay multiple edge rushers, whereas corners, if you get a good one, teams typically just pay the good corners. You know, it's hard to lose them. Where middling edge rushers, it's hard for teams to pay all of them. So I think it's just easier to get one. But corner, yeah, if all things were equal, I would say go get a corner because they just don't have the bodies. And this team wants to play press man coverage. And you can't play press man coverage with Mekhi Blackmon and Jonathan Edwards as your starting corners the next couple weeks.
No, you cannot. Joined by Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts, talking about the Colts and their 5-1 start and potential trades that could be made. Greg Newsome got traded from the Browns to the Jags, and when it happened, I was so bummed because that was a guy that I had circled for the Colts to maybe go get. Tariq Woolen and Rasul Douglas from Miami kind of seem like the two guys that might get moved. Does that do anything for you or no?
Woolen is interesting because he fits a lot of what the Colts would want to do in terms of having a big, physical, fast corner. There's been something going on with him mentally, though, because he has not looked himself, and he's been benched multiple times by that coaching staff the last 2 years. So I'm a bit concerned of where his head is at. But if the price tag isn't too crazy, I mean, why not at this point? I mean, again, he has knee bodies in here, and he can run with what they need in this system. And then Rasul Douglas, I don't think he can run for this system right now. He was never really that athletic of a corner. And this is actually why I'm not really a fan of bringing in like Stephon Gilmore, like a lot of people have said, because look, Gilmore
35.
He's a Hall of Famer. He's a fantastic player, one of the best corners of the 2010s, but he's 35 years old. And again, we're talking about wanting guys who can play in this like press man, like athletic system. He can't run with receivers like that anymore. He can be a decent little zone corner, I'm sure, but he's not running with the top receivers anymore like he used to. So guys like Douglas and Gilmore, I just don't think are fit. Woolen would be a great fit. Even if Seattle wants to move him because he's a head case, they're like the number 3 team in football right now, number 4 team in football. It's hard to sell when you're winning, so even if you have him as like a rotational guy and you're not really in love with him, unless you're getting a good offer, you'd rather just have the depth than move him for like a mid-round pick. So it's kind of a tough situation there. He's certainly one that I would monitor, though, because he does kind of fit what the Colts want, even with him being a bit of a head case, I guess, this year for the Seahawks.
Joined by Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts, talking about potential moves that the Colts can make here at the deadline. I want to go back, last thing here on Colts corners. Someone threw out, well, what about Jalen Jones? The concern with him is he doesn't have the speed to play bump and run, correct?
Yeah, and I just don't get the vibe from people I've talked to that Lou Anarumo was ever really that high on him, especially when the injuries started piling up this offseason. I mean, heck, before he even got hurt, we were seeing guys like Alex Johnson and Jonathan Edwards getting first-team reps over him at times in camp. And then even in week 1 when he was healthy and out there, Mekhi Blackman got every defensive snap over him. And Xavier Howard, who had just been signed, got every defensive snap over him. He was buried on that depth chart, only playing special teams. So he hasn't even logged a snap on defense this year, even though he played that whole first half against the Dolphins before getting hurt. So I don't get the vibe that the Colts, or at least Lou Anarumo, really views him as much as like a defensive starter in this system. Again, his long speed has never really been a strength of his, and now we're asking him to play this press man coverage with very little help over the top, coming off of 2 hamstring injuries as well. I don't know if he's the savior that some people are expecting. I think it's more still of like an outside option that's going to be more of the savior than Jones.
Yeah, I think he ran a 4.6 at the 40, in the 40, if I remember correctly. That's not great. I think I could run a 4.6 if you just let me stretch a little bit,
I can't go that far. You're going too far there, buddy.
Way too far. But the Colts, they are the 1 seed. The offense just continues to be so crisp and impressive. Someone asked me this the other day, and I'm forgetting their name, and so I feel bad. If the Colts needed a day from Daniel Jones where he had to throw for like 350 yards because the Colts just couldn't run the football for whatever reason, can he do that in this offense?
I mean, I don't see why he couldn't. We've yet to see any reasoning why he could. I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that he's going to chuck bombs and hit multiple 40 to 50 yard completions in the game, because that's just not how he's played this year. And I just don't think that's his game. He actually had a really nice deep throw to Alec Pierce this past weekend that I thought was his best vertical ball of the entire season. Pierce just couldn't get his right hand up to get his hands on it. But yeah, overall, he's not this vertical passing option at quarterback. He's more of the short to intermediate game, and he's going to move the offense that way and hit those wide open receivers by identifying matchups. So it's kind of hard with that to hit like 350 yards unless guys are just breaking tackles and turning 10-yard gains into 40-yard gains. But I don't see why he can't, carry the offense through with his arm. And we've seen it in some of their blowout victories where he's thrown 200-plus yards in the first half against the Dolphins and I think the
Raiders.
Titans. Yeah, Raiders.
All of them
for a ton. Yeah, all the blowout wins. He's thrown for nearly he threw for 300 yards in games where he hasn't played in the fourth quarter, or just around 300 yards in games where he hasn't played the fourth quarter. So I don't know why he couldn't throw for 350 in games like that. So yeah, I just think the way this offense is clicking, like if they need him to carry the load like that, I think he could. I mean, he's playing some really good football right now. But again, it's not going to be like, even like the way like Sam Darnold's play this year, where Darnold is hitting 71% of his passes over 20 yards down the field or something, just absolutely insane. That's just not Daniel Jones's game. He's going to just dominate in the short to intermediate, and a lot of the yardage total is going to come from field position and how guys create after the catch. So it won't be like the flashiest 300-yard game, but he can certainly do it if the Colts throw the ball like 40 times in a game.
Totally fair. I tend to agree with that. And I'm curious, how long does Shane Steichen have to do this with Daniel Jones for before we're like, you know what, Shane Steichen's a good head coach? Because we've done this thing with Daniel Jones where it's like, how long does he have to do this for us to be like, Daniel Jones is a good quarterback? What is the same thing for Steichen?
Yeah, I don't know. So it's kind of weird. It feels like people are trying to like weirdly both sides this thing where it's like you don't want to give Daniel Jones the full credit and you don't want to give Shane Steichen the full credit, when it's like, if you want to discredit one of them, you have to give the credit to the other one, don't you? Like, you can't just discredit both for how excellent they've been. Because I know people bring up like the strength of schedule thing a lot, but they've played a tougher strength of schedule than the Bills this year. They've played a tougher strength of schedule than the Patriots, and everyone's praising Drake May right now. So like, I don't know what more you have to see from this offense to believe in it. And I'm of the mindset where I don't want to discount either of these guys, like either of these quarterback or coach here, because I think they've both been fantastic for the Colts. I mean, Shane Steichen's hitting all the right buttons for Daniel Jones. And I said this on yesterday's show where, Shane Steichen's easy buttons for Richardson, for Minshew, for Jalen Hurts even, were spamming a lot of empty personnel and doing a lot of RPOs and those kind of quick games to put stress on the defense, because those guys didn't like motion prior to the snap. They didn't like true play action where you're under center and turning your back to a defense and throwing off of that. They didn't like those aspects. But Daniel Jones, those are his easy buttons. He likes motion prior to the snap. He likes play action. So what have we seen with the Colts this year? The Colts are second or third, I think, in play action rate. They are like top 5 in pre-snap motion rate on passing plays. All things that Steichen really hasn't done as a play caller in the NFL. He's completely changed and adapted to Daniel Jones. Now, to give credit to Daniel Jones, he's taking that information and performing with it. So you got to give credit to both these guys. But for Steichen to completely revamp everything he wants to do because he wants to fit to this quarterback that he trusts is leading to a ton of success. So, yeah, I think Shane Steichen's done a fantastic job this year, not only as a head coach and holding guys accountable and getting this team ready to win on Sundays, but also as a play caller and as an offensive mind. He's been doing some great things with Daniel Jones.
Joined by Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts. You can listen to that podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow Zach on X at Zach Hicks2. You can check out his YouTube channel as well, where he's breaking down all of the Matt Gonsalves film that you can find.
Yep.
Speaking of the quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson, it's not funny, but it's kind of funny. Just like I feel bad for him because what obviously him, fracturing his orbital bone is just like this freak accident. But like, of course it happened to him. What was your reaction when you saw that Richardson's going to be put on IR because he got hurt stretching?
Yeah. I mean, just a perfect amalgamation of his career. You know how we say about A.D. Mitchell a couple weeks ago with the drop against the Rams, how that was just the perfect amalgamation of his career of just one step forward, 2 steps back. It's the same kind of thing here with Richardson in terms of just the injuriness, where it's like he's had so many just fluky injuries, but they just keep happening. So it's like, is it fluky at this point? Like what's the old joke, whatever, like how many owls do you have to see today before you call it like a fluke, or before you're done calling it a fluke and you're like thinking that something weird is. So like if you see like one owl walking around outside, it's like, oh, that's kind of weird. But if you see like 30 owls on your way to work, it's like, okay, something weird is going on here. It's kind of like that with Richardson, where it's like, okay, one fluke injury, you can kind of call it a fluke, but if they keep just happening, it's like, is it really a fluke at this point? I do feel bad for him. It's just like, by all accounts, he's a good dude. And I think people go too far with a lot of things where, you know, guy's not performing for my football team, so I need to drag him as a person and all these things. And that's just what happens way too often in this world. I think he's a good dude. He's a young guy, and I hope he can figure it out in the NFL. But he's just had a run of bad luck along with some mistakes he's made, the mistakes the Colts have made. And it's led to the situation he's at right now. So hopefully he can recover from this, figure out his way in this league. But, you know, as for the Colts, it seems like they already have their guy at quarterback as long as he continues. So we'll see what the future holds for Anthony Richardson and elsewhere. But, yeah, I hope he can just get a quick recovery here on that bone fracture. Look, I will say this. As a kid, I was playing with one of those bands before. Probably not as much stress on it as he put on it.
As like a 6'4", like, 245-pound man.
Yeah. I was like 8 playing with it, and I gave myself a pretty big bruise on my eye. So I understand how that thing can hurt you. So I can only imagine what it's like with him using it, like how much force it was coming back at him. So those things are dangerous. He's lucky he didn't lose an eye, honestly, with how fast that thing can snap and break like that.
Yeah, those bands, man. I had a guy on my college baseball team. He used to try to break them on purpose. I was like, dude, let's maybe not do that, man. You know, he was one of the largest human beings I've ever seen. Anyway, I don't think that they trade him. He's on IR right now. His value before that wasn't great. Now it's probably even lower. What do you think about the Colts maybe moving him?
Yeah, it'd be more of an off-season thing. It certainly wouldn't happen now with the injury. Like, I just don't know what the market would be for him. I don't envision the Colts moving anybody off of this roster unless it was kind of like match salaries or something. Like if they traded for, you know, an edge rusher that has like a decent contract this year that the Colts have to pick up some of it. Maybe you put like a Kwity Paye in there just to match the money a little bit. But outside of that, I don't think the Colts are in the position where they're going to move anyone off the team. I think they would just give up picks for somebody at the trade deadline, if anything.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. It feels like everyone on this Colts team is necessary in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, I don't see them really moving anybody either. How likely do you think it is for Chris Ballard to make a move?
I think it's more likely now than ever because the Chris Ballard we've seen for this past calendar year, I guess since February, March, whatever free agency was, has been a very different Chris Ballard, you know, going out there in free agency, grabbing some big name free agents and closing the deal. And look at all the veterans and just how active they've been on the waiver wire and free agency of late, just to get more bodies in here whenever an injury happens. You know, it's like corners go down, let's go get Xavier Howard. Linebackers are struggling, let's go get Jermaine Pratt. I know those aren't like huge deals or anything, but it's more so than what Ballard would have done in the past. You know how much Austin Ojike and Jonathan Edwards would have seen at this point if this were past Chris Ballard? You know, those guys would be leading the team in defensive snaps at this point in the year if it were Chris Ballard of last year even. So I think he's been a lot more active in listening to Lou Anarumo and Anarumo being like, look, I need more bodies in here. And I can't imagine because, look, again, I like the long-term potential of Edwards, but I've seen how Lou Anarumo talked about him in press conferences. Even when Edwards was having some good moments, Anarumo would always come out here and say, like, knock on wood, he's a young guy still learning his way, and we'll see. Like he was never.
That's not great.
Yeah, that's just how he is with young players. You know, like he's old, like JT Tuimoloau is not playing on Sundays because that's just how Lou is with young players. He has such a high standard for young guys that they have to meet, and I think more so than ever, they're going to be pretty active at this trade deadline. Again, I don't know if it's going to be a corner because I just don't know where you can find a corner, like maybe Alontae Taylor from the Saints, because I think he's on a contract year and I don't think the Saints are going to pay that contract because they're in massive debt, crippling debt right now in New Orleans. But I think an edge rusher makes a lot of sense. And we'll just see, like, I don't want to say like if they'll settle because like you're not going to get a Max Crosby or Trey Hendrickson. Those guys aren't getting moved. But like, do the Colts say like, you know what, going and getting a Carl Granderson or, you know, a Jalen Phillips who, you know, has a great name value, but he has 2 major injuries in his career, which could make the Dolphins hesitant to pay him. Like, do they say that those guys are good enough if they're not going to get the Hendrickson or the Crosbys, or are they just only holding out for like the big swings that just aren't going to be there?
Yeah, joined by Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts, talking about the Colts and this trade deadline. I'm intrigued to see what they're going to do. November 3rd, that's the deadline. Well, I'm sure everyone's waiting in anticipation, and it's awesome. This is so much better than being like, what pick are we going to get, you know?
Yeah.
Jermaine Pratt, what'd you think of his first game with the Colts?
Kind of expected. I think Lou Anarumo and the Colts got trapped a little bit in, like, I just want to give credit to Drew Petzing and the Cardinals offense for how they coached that game. They were going out of their way to make sure the Colts stayed in nickel defense as much as possible by having 6-0 line, 6-0 line or 12 personnel in the field at all times. So that way the Colts had to keep 2 linebackers out there. Because the Colts can get baited into playing base defense with 3 linebackers, but you can bait them into playing 2. And Pratt and Franklin just aren't great cover guys. So they were going with the 6 linemen out there to force the Colts to stay in nickel. And then they were max protecting. And then it was forcing 7 Colts defensive players to cover 3 or 4 wide receivers, which you would think is an advantage for the Colts. But some of those cover guys are Edwards, who wasn't ready for the moment, Franklin and Jermaine Pratt, who are just not great cover guys. And it kind of won as you expected when Pratt was in coverage. So again, I think if the Colts can avoid situations like that and have Pratt be more of a base down guy who can play the run a little bit, I think he can be fine. And that's kind of what the Colts were looking for. But he's not going to be a force player in the passing game. He's not going to be some savior of the linebacker position. He's just there to bring up the level of play from what Bocci and Chad Muma were bringing. And I thought he did that on early downs. It's just when he got left out there on third downs, it was kind of a mess for the Colts. And Drew Petzing and the Cardinals did a really good job with that.
Nothing makes me more nervous than seeing any of the Colts linebackers chasing a running back around in man coverage.
Yeah, Lou, we gotta do whatever we can to, you know what? Let's just not have linebackers on the field anymore. I mean, how much worse could it really be? We're allowing we're allowing 6 yards per carry. Like let's just get all safeties out there and nothing else.
It's the run defense, the defense. It's an issue, and Twitter's just, it's not a great place to get information, but it's a fun place to be, you know? And I saw this one guy, he sends out this tweet, and he's like, AFC is wide open. And he lists every good AFC team except for the Colts as this as a Super Bowl contending team. And I was like, I don't agree with all those names, but I do agree that I don't think that this Colts team, it feels weird to say because they're 5-1 and they're the 1 seed. But if you had asked me today, do the Colts make it to the AFC Championship game? I'd be like, no, probably not. Just in terms of big picture, what is the Colts ceiling?
It's a tough question because I think if your offense is playing like this all year, your ceiling is the AFC Championship game. I mean, gosh, this offense can compete with anybody. We saw their defense get eviscerated on Sunday, and it didn't matter. The Colts offense was able to win that game by just marching up and down. Again, against a defense that I was allowing 19 points against per game coming in, the Colts just dog walked them all game long. So I think the Colts offense is certainly championship caliber. It's just about finding those answers on defense. And I don't know how many of those they're going to find, but I'm willing to wait and see on the defense a little bit. So it's kind of hard to say what their ceiling is right now. I will say this, if they can get the 1 or the 2 seed somehow in the AFC, which, I mean, the Chiefs look like they're figuring things out, but so much of that rest of the AFC looks like a mess right now. If they can get let's say the 2 seed, right? Let's be a little bit lower on them. If they can get the 2 seed and get most of their playoff games at home, I think they have a decent chance to get the AFC Championship game because I don't know who's beating them at home this year. Yeah. That offense at home is it's just a machine. They're averaging 33.5 points per game at home this year. And that's with 2 of those games, their starters didn't play in the fourth quarter. So this could easily be a 35 points per game at home this year. And the other 2 games came against the Cardinals, who were allowing 19 per game coming into that game, and the Broncos, who just allowed 40 yards passing in a game on Sunday.
It was
So, I
Justin
know the
Fields, but I'm with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know it's the Jets, but like they allowed -10 net yards in a game. Like if you can put up 30, you can put up
Jeez.
29 points on a defense that can do that to anybody. You know, I think you're doing something right. So yeah, I think this Colts offense, especially at home, is just going to be an absolute menace for teams to deal with. And as long as they stay healthy on that side of the ball, I'm willing to say that their ceiling could be the AFC Championship game. It could, I mean, with the state of the football, like outside of the Chiefs, I don't know who I would certainly take over them. And I'm only saying the Chiefs because they go to the Super Bowl every single year. That's more so just on what they do in the
Yeah.
past.
They are really good, though. Like,
Yeah,
I think they're
they're the
better
Chiefs.
this year than they were last year. But yeah, anyway, you were
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, no, they're the Chiefs. You can't ever count them. I mean, they've been to every Super Bowl, like in the last 5 years. Like,
Yeah.
come on. But outside of that, I mean, yeah, if your offense is clicking like this and your defense, like their defense with the issues is still taking the football away. I mean, that's the recipe to going far. I mean, that's what the Falcons were in 2016, right? With Shanahan and Matt Ryan's MVP season. Like that's literally their recipe to go to the Super Bowl was defense that takes the football away and offense that just kills you. So yeah, I think they can certainly have a pretty high ceiling. I understand people not buying it because again, it's still Daniel Jones. It's still the Colts. It's hard to really buy in on that. But I think people are going to learn about this Colts team a lot going forward. Like even if their defense is still kind of a mess, this offense is legit.
The offense is it's the best in football. Like when you work through it, I went through the numbers earlier today. They're 10th in red zone offense in terms of touchdown percentage, but they're at like 93% these last 3 weeks. So that issue has been solved. They're like second and third down offense. They're tied for first in yards per play. It's the best offense in football. The defense, it's like my question was like, what does Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes do to this defense whenever the playoffs roll around? That's the concern if there is one.
Yeah, and the biggest thing for me is if the defense can keep taking the ball away, I'm fine with them giving up yards and giving up some points because again, a lot of these shootout games will come down to just turnovers. And the Colts offense really hasn't turned the ball over much this year, and their defense has taken the ball away. So I think that's still a recipe that can succeed. It's just you got to continue that kind of play there. But I'm with you overall. The defense needs to be better. I think they will be. They just need to find some answers and do some soul searching on that side of the ball. But at the end of the day, if you have an offense the way the Colts have right now, you can beat a lot of teams. And again, as long as they stay healthy, I mean, you have a quarterback who's clicking and confident. They have the best running back in football, arguably the best tight end in football, and 3 pass catchers who are just perfect role players who complement each other super well, and an offensive line that's playing really well. Heck, I think even the young guys like Gonzalez had a bit of a setback this past week, but he's been really good overall in the year. Tanner Bortolini just had his best game as a pro. Like he was absolutely fantastic on Sunday, and that comes against Dalvin Tomlinson being lined up over top of him in a lot of this game, who's a fantastic defensive tackle. So this Colts offense is just clicking, man. And I think like people who are like looking at the schedule being like, okay, it gets tougher for the Colts. And I'm like, yeah, it does get a little tough for the Colts, but I think those other teams are also looking at it saying it gets tougher for them because they're seeing that Colts offense on the schedule.
Agreed. Last thing for you, Zach, and I'll let you go. Once again, joined by Zach Hicks of Locked on Colts. So with offenses, so for example, last night with Caleb Williams, the Bears started 0-2. They've now won 3 in a row. And people are like, oh, it just took Caleb Williams time to settle into this new system. How much of that is the case for defenses, more specifically with the Colts and Lou Anarumo? Could part of the struggles early just be it's a new system and they're trying to learn the rules of it?
Yeah, no, that's certainly a big aspect of it. And that's why I've been saying since Lou was hired that this defense can be better come November, December, because they're like it's just about getting the new keys in identification signals and stuff like that on the defense, like just down by the end of the year. Like it's not a whole thing that just comes together from day one. These are very, very different systems, and the Colts haven't really had anything like resembling consistency on defense. Look at all the new starters they have every single week in the secondary. It's hard to get like your match rules and just where you need to be as a defender and what leverage you need to play and stuff like that if you have a new guy out there every single week. and trusting like your safety, for instance, knowing where the safety is going to be helping you if you're not playing on the field very often, you know? So I think as they figure out the starting lineup, as guys get healthier, as they have more consistency who's on the field and who's playing on Sundays, then we'll see this defense really come together. So yeah, I think again, this defense is going to be better come November, December. So a lot of the issues we're seeing now, I mean, we got to be happy that the Colts are 5-1 through probably the hardest part of the schedule for the defense in terms of figuring out where they need to be and what they need to do in this system. So I think there are better days ahead for the defense. They just need to figure out some consistency and really settle on some starters and guys who are going to be on the field.
When's your next article, video, and pod coming out?
Oh, probably later today. I mean, I have a couple teed up. I haven't really looked at the defense yet because I'm scared to look at it, man.
Yeah.
Terrifying stuff.
That's all I've been looking at. And as you can, I mean, I'm still doing fine. It helps that they're 5-1. If they weren't, it'd be a little different.
Right. I'm too mesmerized by Jonathan Taylor's play and the offensive line play from this past Sunday. So I have a lot of videos coming out on that kind of stuff. And then I might venture over to the defense a little bit after that.
The Jonathan Taylor stuff's weird because every time I talk about him, I want to be like, he's playing the best football of his career. And then I'm like, he did run for 1,800 yards not that long ago. So maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Go ahead.
His past 11 games, like dating back to last year, he's run for nearly 1,400 yards in his last 11 games. Like, he's not playing at a human level right now. And then you factor in that he's catching the ball better than he ever has. And he's now like all of a sudden randomly like a top 5 pass blocker at running back, like in the league. I don't know what happened to him all of a sudden, like what clicked. It's like the ankles got better and all the injuries just like left his body. And now he's just this new version, but he looks insane. Like, he's playing like a Frank Gore type running back, but with so much more juice. And it's like, it's the best running back I've seen in years. Like, this is so good, the level he's playing. He's limiting negative yards. He's falling forward on everything. He's breaking off big runs. Like, I can't speak enough on how well he's played this year. He is playing at like an all-world level for the Colts.
He's the best running back in football, and I don't think there's really another option.
All-around running back.
Yeah.
Too. It's not like just in 2021 where he's the best runner in football. He's the best running back. Like, just he's the best weapon in the backfield in football.
He is, and it's like the Colts spent a 5th-round pick on DJ Giddens, and Giddens hasn't been perfect when he's been in, but at the same time, like, he hasn't been bad enough for them to be like, you know what, DJ, you're just not going to play for a long time. Like, he's not playing because Jonathan Taylor's been so good on all 3 downs.
Yeah, you can't take him off the field because he's your best pass blocker now all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like, you can't take him off the field. I'm like, there was a clip on Sunday, which I'm so excited to keep breaking down throughout the week, but Taylor picked up a blitz from the Cardinals. It was Budda Baker he blocked. He like depleted him, lifted him off the ground, drove him back 4 yards, and then made himself available for Jones and caught the ball and nearly converted on 3rd down. And I was like, who is this running back? Like, he has never been this. Like, he is an awesome, awesome pass blocker. He's catching the ball well. He's not getting tackled. Like, he's so good, man. He's so good right now.
He is. And he's so good that it's hurting Daniel Jones's chances of winning MVP.
Yeah, they're stealing from each other right now.
They are. All right, Zach, I need to run. Thanks for your time. Looking forward to seeing the videos and the podcast and the new articles that are coming out.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
You got it. Zach Hicks, check him out on X at Zach Hicks 2. Does a great job covering the Colts. You can tell he loves covering them, watches every snap, rewatches every snap. It's like I said, you're going to be hard pressed to find a guy who loves covering the Colts more than Zach Hicks does. When we come back in 4 minutes, a lesson in the world of college football Indiana fans need to learn, and a little bit more on the Colts as well.
Tickets at noon. The Real Jonathan Smith Show. Now, this is Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and if you want to head over there and subscribe, you can also watch the show over on X at __ Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app or 1430 AM as well if you're driving around the Indianapolis area. The Colts are 5-1. Football in the state of Indiana, I mean, it's the home of football. We've just taken it from everybody else. The Indiana Hoosiers could win the national championships. You know, they're going to play Ohio State in the Big Ten title game, and it really wouldn't be the most surprising thing in the world if they met again on the national stage for the national title. That's how good this Indiana football team is. And it's ruffled a lot of feathers. College football is, let's just be honest, like it's a club of elitists. That's what it is. It's the same teams year in and year out sitting atop of the college football world and looking down on everybody else. Ohio State, always good. Miami had their run in the 90s. They're back. Texas A&M has always had very high expectations for their football program. Ole Miss, same thing. Alabama, it's Alabama. Don't think they need any sort of introduction. Texas Tech, they always expect to score points. They're a little different, but they always expect to be good. If you're at a college in Texas, you're expected to be good every year. It's just how it is. Oregon, ever since, Chip Kelly showed up, they started winning a ton of games. Georgia had their little run with Kirby Smart there where they won some national titles. LSU, same thing. Tennessee had their days with Peyton Manning. Notre Dame, could argue that they're the most storied franchise. They're the most storied school in all of college football. Oklahoma, same thing. Rich history there. Right? Like, all these teams tend to sit atop the world of college football. And then you have Indiana, who's just like, hey, we hired an excellent head coach in Coach Signetti, and we also have as much money as the rest of you guys. So now we're here, and you're not going to get rid of us. They won 11 games last year, right? They go 11-1 during the regular season, get trounced by Ohio State, and then they get trounced by Notre Dame in the playoff. And the reason why they lost both of those games is because they just weren't good enough up front on either side of the football. The trenches, like there was just a very clear mismatch. They got pushed around in those games from the start. And that is not the case this year. They go into Eugene and they beat Oregon. And because Indiana's the newcomer, people don't like it. And they're going to do everything that they can to discredit IU because they don't belong in this club of elite college football teams. And so they're doing to Indiana what teams do. Indiana, like they're really not that good. They only went on the road and beat Oregon by 10. When I look at Oregon and their schedule, like they haven't really beaten anybody any good. So like, is Oregon even good? And like, if we don't know if Oregon's good, then how can we know that Indiana's any good? So they must be bad because we don't know for certain that they're good. And you can do that with every team in college football. It is one of the funniest and yet most frustrating aspects of the sport. You can just discredit every team. You can discredit every team in college football. It's not hard. I've got them written out for the top 10 teams in college football. I just did it to Indiana. Like Ohio State. If you have some annoying Ohio State fan sitting here, telling you about, Indiana can't compete and all these things, just say, hey, Ohio State, who's your best win? Let's say, Texas at home. But Texas isn't very good. Texas is only ranked because they're in the SEC. Their one good win was against Oklahoma, a game where John Mateer was clearly still hurt in his first game back. And Arch Manning sucks. They're not even good, and you only beat them by 7. Is Ohio State even good? Miami, their best wins against Notre Dame, Notre Dame's best win's probably North Carolina State, who's a bad ACC team. Miami's just cruising on an overrated schedule. Like Florida State isn't even ranked anymore. And that was supposed to be one of their better wins. Like, is Miami even good? And you can just keep on doing that for every team in college football. Seriously, you can do it to everybody. It's kind of funny. It's what makes the sport unique, but it's also what makes the sport incredibly annoying in terms of the discourse around it. Indiana is good. Do you know how I know that? Because I've watched Indiana play football. That's how I know. I know that win over Oregon is good because I've seen Oregon play football. And I understand that is a very good football team. I know that Alabama is good because I've watched Alabama play football. And I've watched them beat 3 ranked teams 3 weeks in a row. That's how I know. And so if someone says, Indiana's not good, then just say, you haven't watched them play football then. That or you're a hater. And no one ever admits to being a hater, so they're going to have to admit to not watching football. Because it's one or the other. And it's going to keep coming. It's going to continue to happen. Right? People are going to continue to question Indiana because they are not a part of that elite college football history club. And they're not in the South. It's just how it is. And it's going to be annoying until Indiana wins a national title, which 1,000% could happen this year. And again, they're going to win the rest of their games. That's what should happen, right? That's what should happen, right? Like this next week, they're going to play Michigan State at home. It should blow them out. And then they're going to play UCLA, who's, better since they fired their head coach. That being said, Michigan State is not as good as Indiana, and Indiana gets them at home. They should win that game. And then they're at Maryland. Solid Big Ten team, not some great Big Ten team, though. And then they're at Penn State, who is loaded with talent, but obviously they fired James Franklin. And then they're going to get Wisconsin at home. Luke Fickell probably won't be coaching at that point in the year. Shouldn't be, at least. And then they're going to close out in West Lafayette at Purdue, a team that is better than they were last year, but is still clearly nowhere near the level of Indiana. That is the rest of their schedule. They're probably going to go 12-0, barring any injury. I hope they stay healthy because this is arguably the best team in college football. And with that, they're going to go they're going to come here to Indy, and they're going to play Ohio State in the Big Ten Conference Championship game. And that is the game where we're really going to find out not only if they're good, because they're clearly good. They beat Illinois by 53. They just went on the road to Oregon, and they beat them by 10. But right now, as much as I hate to say this, it's true. The standard in college football is Ohio State. They are the standard. They are the best program in the sport right now. They won a national title last year. They recruit at an incredibly high level. Their defense is probably the best in all of college football. And you just keep running off all the accomplishments for Ohio State and everything that they've done in the sport. They spend as much money as anybody on a roster. You can keep running through it. Okay? That is the game where we're going to find out how Indiana measured up against the legitimate top of the sport. Indiana's clearly good. They're clearly one of the best 5 teams in the country. They're clearly good enough to win the national championship game. But you're probably going to have to beat Ohio State in order to do it. And the Big Ten championship game, when it comes rolling around here, I'm just telling you, it's going to be fun. I can't wait for Indiana and Ohio State to very likely square off in that Big Ten title game. It's going to be a blast. So they're really good, 12-0, very much in play for them. And then you got the Colts, who are 5-1, and it's different. Just like the feeling between both teams. I really like Indiana football, and I know that they're good enough to win a national title. But the Colts, they're 5-1. And I really like watching the Colts play football. but I don't think they're good enough right now to win the Super Bowl. It is all offense. They remind me of the Detroit Lions last year when everyone on the Detroit Lions defense got hurt. That is who the Colts remind me of, because they have the best offense in football right now. You cannot deny that. They lead the NFL in points per game. They are 10th in red zone touchdown percentage after the struggles to start the season. By the way, if you look at just every team's last 3 games, the Colts are by far the best red zone offense in the NFL these last 3 weeks, scoring a touchdown on 92% of their red zone possessions. They're tied for first in yards per play this year with the Seattle Seahawks. They're second in third down offense. It's the best offense in the NFL. And they're putting up these numbers not only against the Dolphins and the Raiders and the Titans. They just dog walked the fourth, or what was the 4th ranked scoring defense in the NFL in the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday. They hung 29 points up on the Broncos, scoring on every possession except for 2. It's the 29 points. That is the most amount of points that the Broncos have given up in a game all year. This is the best offense in the NFL. The one bad offensive week they had when they scored 20 points on the road against the Rams. What happened in that game? Daniel Jones threw 2 bad picks. A.D. Mitchell dropped the football before crossing the goal line. They shot themselves in the foot. It was nothing that a very good Rams defense did to slow down the Colts. It was the Colts getting in their own way. It's the reality of it. And the issue with them and why they're not a Super Bowl team is the defense isn't good enough. This defense is not good. It feels very gimmicky. They're 15th in yards per play allowed. They have the 30th ranked third down defense. There are only 2 defenses on third down worse than the Colts have been this year. And the Colts have played the Raiders, Dolphins, and Titans. And Jacoby Brissett and the Cardinals. That's problematic. This defense has survived because they are 6th in the NFL in takeaways per game. That's it. That's the only reason why this defense is currently 4th in scoring defense in the NFL, which is still just super bizarre. And even if you want to point to that number, I think everyone would agree that the Colts do not have the 4th best defense in football. Okay, so this defense needs to be upgraded. That cornerback number 2 slot is not very good. That the edge rushers, not very good. Like, they have to find a way to upgrade both of those things, or at least one of them, for me to start to believe that they're good enough to go beat the Chiefs. Because the Chiefs, to me right now, I know that they're 3-3, and you're technically not allowed to say this about a team that is 3-3. But with that being said, the Chiefs, I think right now, are the best team in the AFC. They just held the Lions, 2nd best offense in the NFL, by the way. They just held them to 17 points. They beat them 30-17. That Chiefs offense, it's not the Chiefs offense from last year. They are very explosive, and they're bringing back a guy in Rashee Rice. They, to me, look like a more complete football team than the Colts do. And it's because of that defensive side of the football. The Colts can go blow for blow with any offense in the NFL. They can absolutely do that. I do have questions, though, about the defense, and that is why I cannot move them into that Super Bowl bubble. The run defense has been bad. When Charvarius Ward hasn't played, the secondary has been bad. And so, very hard for me to buy in when that is all going on. So, congratulations to Purdue fans. You're 3 weeks away from college basketball season. Go ahead and punt on this football season. Sorry that you lost to Minnesota on Saturday, but you are the number 1 ranked team in the land, in the world of college basketball. Those preseason polls, very kind of Purdue, as they should be. It's a very, very good roster. When it comes to Indiana, you're projected to finish 10th in the Big Ten. That used to mean you would finish last, and now means that there are 8 teams who will finish below you. And I think that they'll finish better than that. I think this is a team that probably makes the NCAA tournament, but we'll see. Got to stay healthy in order to do that. That's going to do it here on The Real Jonathan Smith Show. If you want more from me, go check out the My Take Is YouTube page. I post extra stuff over there. Head over there and subscribe. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to tune into my show. The Dan Dockett Show comes your way next. Armando, he'll be on at 12:30. And then either Jonathan or Chad Withrow will be on at 2 o'clock. I don't know which one, but it's going to be a great show. The Dan Dockett Show comes your way next. I'll talk to you tomorrow starting at 10 a.m.